She told me, "My ex and I have to travel together for work. If you have a problem, that's on you." I said, "Got it." Days later, I signed my contract in Dubai and left without a word. I'm Alex, I'm 32, and for the past 4 years, I've been working as a logistics manager at a major shipping firm in Los Angeles. A role that's steady, precise, and financially rewarding, but about as thrilling to recount at social gatherings as watching paint dry. I'd thought I knew the rhythm of my life with Emily weekend brunches in Silver Lake, debates over whether to adopt a dog, and late-night pizza runs after long workdays. But apparently, that rhythm had quietly shifted without me noticing. I first met Emily at a charity gala downtown when she was still a junior designer, sketching branding concepts on coffee-stained notebooks, and I was coordinating shipments from the port of Long Beach to Asia. Our initial conversations were effortless, shared complaints about LA traffic, laughing over Chicago-style deep dish we both missed from childhood trips, and joking about the absurdity of overpriced avocado toast. Within 6 months, we had fallen into that comfortable pattern where we completed each other's grocery lists and bickered playfully over home decor choices. I admired how Emily's career flourished. She transitioned from freelance gigs to a boutique advertising agency, quickly gaining recognition for her creative instincts. Her growth was exciting, inspiring even, but I hadn't realized how it would reshape the dynamics between us. It started subtly, with her schedule stretching into weekend workshops and week-long client trips across California, New York, and occasionally Chicago, all co-led with Ryan, a senior creative director she'd dated in college. She painted it as professional necessity, nothing personal, and I didn't initially worry. I'm not a jealous type, and Emily had always been transparent about her past. But as months passed, the pattern became undeniable. Ryan was everywhere her major projects were, sharing creative control and occasionally hotel rooms for multi-day presentations. Texts and nightly video calls became sporadic, reduced to 11 p.m. check-ins filled with vague reassurances about working late dinners or brainstorming sessions. I noticed the tension rise whenever I asked specifics. I wasn't questioning her professionalism, but she framed my curiosity as a lack of trust. During that period, my own career trajectory was quietly beckoning. I had been offered a senior operations manager role overseeing our Middle East division, based in Dubai, a leap that would triple my responsibilities, increase my salary by over 50%, and set me on track for executive leadership. I had postponed every call, declined every email, convincing myself that staying in Los Angeles for Emily's sake mattered more than my own ambitions. I pictured our life together, imagined building a home, and perhaps a family in the city we both loved. Every time my director followed up, I would glance at photos of Emily and me at Venice Beach, or remember the surprise birthday brunch she orchestrated with friends, and I sent another polite decline. I thought I was being mature, selfless even, prioritizing our partnership over personal advancement. But on her return from a 9-day creative immersion in San Francisco, her distracted demeanor was impossible to ignore. I picked her up at LAX with coffee from her favorite cafe, excitement buzzing under the surface, only to be met with curt one-word answers and avoidance of her trip's details. Ryan's name appeared in the conversation, and the cold glance Emily shot me made it abundantly clear. Asking was crossing some invisible line. I waited patiently, letting her decompress, rehearsing the discussion I knew I had to have about Dubai, about the opportunity that had been dangling before me for months, and how we might navigate it together. The dinner we shared at our favorite Italian bistro in Santa Monica, soft lighting, rustic wooden tables, the place where we'd celebrated promotions and birthdays alike, was meant to be the setting for that conversation. I explained the Dubai offer, carefully framing it as a joint exploration, a temporary arrangement where we could maintain long distance while she tested opportunities abroad. But Emily's reaction was immediate, raw, and entirely unanticipated. She slammed her fork down, and the clatter against the plate echoed my rising anxiety. "You want to move across the world now? Just when everything's finally aligning for me? When I'm finally being recognized for my talent?" Her voice trembled, not with hurt, but with controlled anger. I attempted to clarify this wasn't a demand, just a discussion. But she cut me off, layering years of ambition, frustration, and fear into a single relentless outpouring. For 6 years, she had fought to be heard in meetings where her ideas were dismissed as soft or too feminine, and now she was demanding that I step aside for her momentum. My words, advocating mutual consideration, were reframed as attempts at control. I listened, quietly, with a growing sense of realization. Every subtle tension over the past months, every late-night text, every defensive response, now snapped into focus. The truth settled cold and sharp in my chest. She had made her choice, long before this conversation, and I was the only one who hadn't yet acted on mine. I tried again, calmly, hoping she'd hear reason rather than frustration. Emily, I'm not asking you to compromise your career. I just want us to discuss possibilities together. Maybe temporary long distance, or exploring creative opportunities in Dubai while I'm there. We can find a way that works for both of us. She shook her head slowly, incredulous. Alex, you don't get it. This isn't about compromise. It's about boundaries mine. Ryan and I have a professional shorthand that goes back years. Clients request us as a pair. You think you can just move me across the world, ignore my commitments, and it'll be easy? No, you'll resent me. I'll resent you, and we'll both be miserable. Her words struck deeper than I expected. The Emily I had imagined building a future with, the woman who'd shared Sunday mornings with me over pancakes and long walks along Santa Monica Pier, had transformed. Career ambition wasn't a part of her life anymore. It had become the axis around which everything revolved. Our partnership, which I thought was mutual, had become secondary to her professional validation and her old flame, who now held a seat at the table of every major project. My mind raced, recalling months of subtle shifts, late-night text excuses, sudden weekend trips, that cold glance whenever Ryan's name surfaced. I had brushed them off as work stress, nothing more. But the patterns were undeniable now. I attempted another approach, softer this time. We could explore temporary arrangements. 6 months, maybe a year, until you're ready to see if opportunities in Dubai make sense. We could support each other, stay connected. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. Temporary? Alex, nothing is temporary when it comes to my career. You're asking me to erase years of progress, to sideline my accomplishments because of your discomfort. That's not a discussion. That's control, and I won't allow it. I realized then that I was arguing against someone I no longer recognized. She wasn't the Emily I'd fallen in love with. She was a force of ambition, determined, relentless, and unapologetically prioritizing her life in ways I could not reconcile with. The conversation spiraled. Every reasonable suggestion I made was reframed as an attempt to dictate her choices, while every assertion she made was treated as an ultimatum I was supposed to grovel over. She leaned across the table, voice rising, eyes sharp with conviction. You've been choosing comfort over growth, Alex. You're scared of taking risks, scared to leave behind the familiar. This isn't a debate. This is reality. If you can't handle it, then maybe we're not compatible. My stomach twisted. Every instinct, every pattern I'd noticed over the past year, screamed that she had already decided long before I could articulate my intentions. And I finally understood. I had been sacrificing my ambitions for a relationship that wasn't reciprocal. Driving back from the restaurant, the air between us thick with unspoken tension, I felt a clarity I hadn't experienced in months. Emily was waiting for someone to yield, someone to compromise, and I realized with startling lucidity that person had been me for far too long. I didn't feel heartbreak or anger, only a profound sense of resolution. I was ready to prioritize myself, my career, and my life. The Dubai position, once a tantalizing opportunity I had deferred, suddenly became a symbol of autonomy, a path forward that wasn't contingent on someone else's approval or validation. Over the next few days, I executed my plan with methodical precision. I signed the offer letter, coordinated my relocation, and began packing my apartment with the same attention to detail I applied to international logistics. Every item wrapped and labeled, every document prepared, was a tangible reminder that I was reclaiming control over my life. Emily texted sporadically, seemingly relieved that I wasn't resisting her professional boundaries, completely unaware that I had already committed to a future 7,000 miles away. Dinner invitations, casual conversations, and everyday interactions all performed with warmth and normalcy masked the reality of my decision. I was calm, composed, fully in control, while simultaneously dismantling the life I had built in Los Angeles for over a decade. 13 days later, the final pieces were in place, movers scheduled, lease terminated, tickets booked. The morning before my departure, there was a knock at my door, urgent, insistent. I opened it to find Emily, her face a mix of disbelief and desperation. "Are you moving?" she asked, taking in the scene of neatly stacked boxes and meticulously packed furniture. I stood firm, voice steady. "I am. The Dubai position is official. I leave in 5 days." Her mouth opened, no words coming out at first, as though the magnitude of my preparation had finally hit her. The casual dinners, the everyday interactions, had lulled her into believing nothing had changed. But the reality was stark, unmovable, and final. Emily's expression shifted through confusion, anger, and finally panic. You just decided this. Overnight." I didn't flinch. "No, Emily. You made your decisions clearly at that restaurant, long before I did. I'm merely acting with the clarity you refuse to acknowledge. I'm respecting your boundaries completely, and I'm choosing my own future in alignment with my ambitions. Compatibility is mutual, and it's evident ours no longer exists in that sense." She started pacing, voice trembling, trying to find a loophole, a way to rewrite the reality I had meticulously created. But I remained calm, composed, observing the spiral of desperation I had anticipated. Every argument she made, every plea, only reinforced my decision. This relationship was over, and for the first time in years, I felt no regret, only liberation. The morning of my departure arrived like any other, yet felt surreal. The airport was bustling, travelers rushing to gates, families hugging, business people adjusting briefcases. I sat in the Qatar Airways lounge, passport in hand, boarding pass displayed, watching the lights of Los Angeles fade in the distance. My phone buzzed. I almost ignored it, but curiosity and a flicker of responsibility made me glance. It was Emily, her number, unfamiliar now in its desperation. I didn't answer. She arrived at the gate moments later, breathless, pleading. "Alex, please. Just 10 minutes. I need to talk before you leave." I closed my laptop slowly, looked out at the runway, and spoke evenly. "Emily, we've already had every conversation that matters. You made your choices in Nashville, at the restaurant, and in every interaction since. My decision doesn't need discussion. I'm boarding in 5 minutes. Goodbye." Her face fell, the color draining, shock settling into disbelief. She realized fully, finally, that the calm demeanor I'd maintained over the past 2 weeks was not indifference, it was clarity. Walking down the jetway, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. The weight of indecision, the endless compromises, the constant internal debate over her professional demands versus my own aspiration, all of it was gone. In its place was a sense of autonomy, a thrill of uncharted possibilities, and the simple truth that I was no longer tethered to someone whose priorities were misaligned with mine. Dubai awaited, a city of opportunity, modernity, and the chance to operate at a level I had been ready for long. Before this relationship had clouded my judgment, 3 weeks into my new role, life had transformed entirely. My apartment in Jumeirah Beach Residences overlooked the Persian Gulf, floor-to-ceiling windows flooding the space with light and expanse. The city, a fusion of tradition and cutting-edge architecture, mirrored the professional challenges I now navigated. Coordinating operations across 7 countries required precision, creativity, and diplomacy. My days began with early calls to offices in Karachi, Europe, and East Africa, and extended into late-night strategic meetings with multinational partners. Every challenge, every complex negotiation was exhilarating. For the first time in months, I felt my skills fully tested and rewarded. I maintained absolute silence regarding Emily. I had blocked her on all platforms, refusing to entertain further contact. My social circle tried to fill me in. Friends called with updates about her abrupt resignation from the agency, her retreat from social circles, the public fallout of the Nashville incident with Ryan. Each detail confirmed the pattern I had long suspected. Her choices had consequences, and I was no longer entangled in them. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I simply continued building a life that was wholly mine, unshackled and autonomous. Life in Dubai brought new social interactions as well. Casual dinners with colleagues introduced me to Emma, a British marketing executive who knew the city's restaurant scene like the back of her hand. Celine, a French urban planner passionate about sustainable development. And Sophie, a Canadian corporate lawyer with a sharp wit that kept me laughing despite the intensity of my work. None of these connections became romantic. I wasn't seeking them. I was relearning how to exist outside of a relationship that had defined me too narrowly, enjoying conversations about projects, culture, and ambitions without the mental calculus of emotional compromise. Weeks turned into months. I thrived professionally and personally, discovering a freedom that had been suppressed under the guise of compromise. Dubai wasn't just a career milestone. It was a reinvention. I explored the city, learned its rhythms, navigated the metro, visited souks and galleries, and even started sketching a mental map of my own ambitions beyond work travel plans, investments, personal projects that had long been postponed. The city's energy, its opportunities, and the sheer scope of life there mirrored the sense of unshackled potential I now felt. Emily tried to reach me. Friends reported that she had called relentlessly, left messages alternating between apologies, pleas, and attempts at explanation. I didn't answer. Each call, each text only reinforced my decision. I had acted with clarity, and I would not compromise my future for someone who had made repeated, deliberate choices that placed personal ambition and past attachments above our shared life. I felt no cruelty, only the profound satisfaction of self-respect exercised. The months passed, and my perspective solidified. Partnerships should enhance life, not diminish it. Love without respect, boundaries, and reciprocity is hollow. The lessons of Los Angeles of Emily, of my hesitation, of my initial compromise were not regrets, but foundational truths I carried forward. I had chosen myself, and in doing so, had reclaimed the life I deserved, challenging, vibrant, and entirely my own. One evening, watching the sunset over the Persian Gulf, reflecting its colors in my glass-walled apartment, I realized the enormity of what I had accomplished. I had built a life on my terms, learned to trust my instincts, and rediscovered a sense of self-worth that had been quietly eroded over the last year. The city stretched before me, full of possibilities, and for the first time in years, I was genuinely excited, not about anyone else, not about validation or compromise, but about me. I posted one final image on social media before completely disconnecting from the past. A first-class boarding pass, my new apartment in the background, captioned simply "New City, New Position, New Chapter, VP of Middle East Operations." And then, for the first time in a long while, I put down my phone, turned off notifications, and simply existed. In Dubai, I didn't just find professional fulfillment. I found myself. And that, I realized, was worth every difficult choice, every moment of discomfort, and every past compromise. I had learned the ultimate act of self-love, choosing my life, my ambitions, and my dignity over anyone who could not honor them alongside me.